What would you do if a cop ordered you out of your car for no reason at all? Not because you broke a law, but because he wanted to search you and your car and everything you own. That's exactly what happened to a 71-year-old driver in one traffic stop, and the cop who did it got fired and arrested for what he did. But here's the part that should scare you. That driver almost said yes to everything. He was seconds away from giving up every right he had, and the only thing that saved him was knowing a few exact sentences. Most people have no idea how fast this can happen to them. Your rights don't disappear when the lights flash behind you, but they can vanish in 1 second if you say the wrong word, and cops know this. They're trained to get you to talk yourself into giving up your protections. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to show you could save you from a nightmare traffic stop. Subscribe before this gets taken down, because there are people who don't want you knowing this. Here's what you're about to learn. The one sentence that stops a cop from searching your car without a warrant. The question that forces him to either arrest you or let you go. The exact words to use when he asks to search your trunk, your phone, or your glove box, and the Supreme Court cases that back up every single one of these moves. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and this same pattern shows up almost every time. By the end of this video, you'll know more about your rights than 90% of drivers on the road, and that knowledge is the only thing standing between you and a bad night. Let's talk about why this moment is so dangerous. A traffic stop has a legal timeline: the stop, the document check, the ticket, and you leaving. That's the whole job. But cops are trained to push into a fifth phase, the investigation phase. This is where they hunt for drugs, guns, cash, or anything else they can arrest you for. And the fastest way into that phase is getting your permission. Because, with your permission, they don't need a warrant, a judge, or even a reason. That's why the 71-year-old driver in this story was in real danger. He was polite, nervous, and ready to say yes to anything. And that's exactly what the cop was counting on. Most drivers hand over their rights like they're handing over their license. They don't even realize they're doing it. And that's the trap. Here's the reality. Most drivers think being polite means saying yes to everything. That's wrong. You can be respectful and still protect yourself. The two are not the same thing. And the moment you understand that, you take your power back. Politeness is not permission. Remember that. Now let's get into tactic number 1. This is the most important line you will ever say during a traffic stop. The moment a cop asks to search your car, your trunk, your bag, or anything else, you say this: I do not consent to any searches. Those exact words. Memorize them. Practice them. Say them out loud right now, because your brain will freeze in the moment and you need this line to come out automatic. Let me show you exactly why this works. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches. That's a real law in the Constitution. But here's the catch. If you give consent, the search becomes reasonable and the protection disappears. That's not my opinion. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In a case called Schneckloth v. Bustamonte from 1973, the court said a cop can search you without a warrant if you voluntarily agree. So the entire game is about getting you to agree. And when you say no, you take away his easiest tool. He has nothing left but a warrant, and warrants require a judge and a real reason. Bad way. Most drivers say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Then the cop rips the car apart, finds something he decides is suspicious, and you spend the night in a cell fighting to prove you did nothing wrong. You'll pay for a lawyer. You'll miss work. You'll pray the charges get dropped, all because of 2 words. Good way. Smart drivers say, I do not consent to any searches. Then the cop has to make a choice. He either lets you go, or he calls a judge and gets a warrant. And here's the trick they don't want you knowing, most of the time he does neither. He just lets you go because he was fishing, not investigating. He had no reason to search you. He was hoping you'd give him one. Watch what happens when you say this line. The cop might push back. He might say, why not? You got something to hide? Don't explain. Don't argue. Just repeat the line. I do not consent to any searches. You don't owe him a reason. Your silence is your right. And if he searches anyway, everything he finds can be thrown out of court. That's the law. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court every single day. It's not a secret. It's just not taught to drivers. And that's why cops love pulling over people who don't know it. The whole search collapses without your permission, and they know it. Have you ever been asked to search your car during a traffic stop? Drop a comment below and tell me what you said. I read every single one, and your story could help someone else. In the same spot, now tactic number 2. This one is about the question that ends the stop. After the cop gives you your ticket or warning, he's supposed to be done with you. That's the law. But most cops don't stop there. They'll keep you standing there and start asking questions. Things like, where are you headed tonight? Or do you have any weapons or drugs in the car? These questions are a trap, because once you're talking, you're no longer leaving. You're being held, and being held without a legal reason is against the law. Every second you stay is a second he can use to build a case against you. Here's the exact thing you say when the ticket is handed back and the cop is still talking. Am I being detained, or am I free to leave? Those 9 words. That's the question that forces him to make a choice. He can't dodge it. He can't ignore it. He has to answer. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. In Ohio v. Robinette, a case from 1996, the Supreme Court looked at a driver who was stopped for speeding. The cop gave him a warning, then asked if he had drugs or weapons in the car. The driver said no, but he let the cop search anyway, and the cop found drugs. Here's the point. The court said the cop didn't have to tell the driver he was free to go. So the driver's own words gave the cop everything he needed. If that driver had asked, am I being detained, or am I free to leave? The whole search falls apart. The conversation ends, and the search never happens. Here's the reality. Cops are counting on you not knowing the difference between being detained and being free. When you're detained, you have to answer questions. When you're free to leave, you can walk away, and the conversation ends. That one question flips the whole situation. It takes the control out of his hands and puts it back in yours. Bad way. Most drivers stand there and chat. Oh, I'm just headed home from work. Then the cop finds a reason to keep you, calls for backup, and now you're in a full investigation. You just talked yourself into a search. Good way. Smart drivers say, am I being detained, or am I free to leave? Then the cop either names a real reason or lets you go. And if he can't name a reason, you walk away. And here's the magic of that question. He might get quiet or annoyed, but he has to answer you, because pretending you're detained when you're free is a lie, and he knows it. Former police officers have confirmed this works. They've told me this question makes their job harder because it forces them to be honest about why you're still standing there. Are you starting to see how many rights you've been giving away without realizing it? Keep watching, because the next tactic is the one that gets people arrested every single day. Now, tactic number 3. This one is about the dog, the drug-sniffing dog. When a cop brings a dog around your car, people panic. They think the dog's nose is the final word. They think if the dog barks, it's over. But here's the thing. The dog can only show up if the cop is allowed to keep you there, and he's not. In 2015, the Supreme Court ruled in Rodriguez v. United States that a cop cannot hold you past the end of your traffic stop just to run a dog around your car. Not even for 1 extra minute. That delay is illegal. That's the law. The stop ends and the dog's chance ends with it. Listen closely, because this is critical. If the cop has already finished your stop and he's waiting for the dog, you say this: my traffic stop is over. I do not consent to a dog sniff, and I am free to leave. Then you ask the question again: am I being detained, or am I free to leave? 2 lines. That's all it takes. Here's why it works. The dog sniff is a search, and like every search, it needs a reason. If the cop has no reason and you refuse to stay, the dog never gets its shot. The whole trick falls apart. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection against dog searches, because it attacks the timing, not the dog. You're not fighting the dog. You're fighting the clock, and the clock is on your side. Bad way. Most drivers sit and wait while the dog walks around the car. Then the dog alerts, the cop searches, and you're arrested over something. The cop calls probable cause. You never even knew you had the right to leave. Good way. Smart drivers say the stop is over and leave. Then the dog never sniffs and nothing gets found because the cop never had the legal time to do it. No dog, no alert, no search, no arrest. It's that simple. Watch what happens in court. If the cop holds you for the dog anyway, everything the dog finds gets thrown out, because the search was illegal from the start. That's exactly what the Supreme Court said in Rodriguez. The stop can't be extended for a dog sniff, period. End of story. The dog is only powerful when you let the cop keep you there. Most people already clicked away. If you're still here, you're in the top 10% of viewers. Drop a comment and say I'm still here, and stay with me, because this last tactic is the one that saves people from the worst outcome of all. Now, tactic number 4. This one is about your body. The pat down, the frisk. When a cop says, step out of the car and put your hands on your head, people freeze. And I get it. That's scary. But you need to know what's legal and what's not. A cop can pat you down only if he has a real reason to believe you're armed and dangerous. That's from a case called Terry v. Ohio from 1968. He can't just frisk you because he feels like it. and he can't frisk you because you were nervous. Nervous isn't a crime. Being scared isn't a crime, and being in a bad neighborhood isn't a crime either. Here's what you say if he tries to frisk you without a reason. I do not consent to a pat-down. Same rule as the car. No consent means no search. And if he pats you down anyway and finds something, that evidence can be tossed out of court because he had no reason to touch you in the first place. The search was illegal, so everything it found is illegal too. This is 100% legal. Refusing to consent is your right, and it's protected by the Constitution. This is 100% legal, and it's the difference between walking away free and being handcuffed for no reason. You are not being difficult. You are not being rude. You are exercising a right that belongs to you. Bad way. Most drivers say nothing and stand there while the cop pats them down. Then the cop finds a pocket knife or a wallet and turns it into a bigger problem. Now you're explaining yourself, and explaining never helps. Good way. Smart drivers say, I do not consent to a pat-down, and they stay calm. Calm is the key. The calmer you are, the less reason the cop has to escalate. You say the line, you keep your hands visible, and you wait. Most of the time, that's the end of it. Now, let's talk about the legal framework that backs all of this up. These aren't just tricks, they're real law. Schneckloth v. Bustamonte, 1973. This one says your consent makes a search legal. So that's why saying no matters so much. Ohio v. Robinette, 1996. This one says the cop doesn't have to tell you you're free to go, so you have to ask. Rodriguez v. United States, 2015. This one says the cop can't hold you for a dog sniff, and Terry v. Ohio, 1968. This one says a pat-down needs a real reason. Put those four together and you have a full shield for a traffic stop. Every tactic I taught you today is built on one of these rulings. Every single line you learned is backed by the highest court in the country. Let me walk you through the real scenario. Picture it. You're driving home from work. A 71-year-old driver, just like the man in this story, is doing the same thing. Red and blue lights light up behind him. He pulls over. The cop walks up and says he was speeding. The driver hands over his license and registration. So far, everything is normal. The cop checks the computer, comes back, and hands the papers over. This is the moment everything changes. Now, here's where most drivers break. The cop hands the papers back and says, "You mind if I take a quick look in your trunk?" And most drivers say, "Yeah, sure, no problem." That's the wrong way. From that second on, the cop can search everything. He pops the trunk, he finds something he doesn't like, and the driver is in handcuffs, fighting a case he never should have had. He gave away his freedom with 2 words. Now let's run it the right way. The same cop, the same stop. The driver hands over his papers. The cop says, "You mind if I take a quick look in your trunk?" And the driver says, "I do not consent to any searches." The cop pushes back. "Why not? You got something to hide?" The driver stays calm and says it again. "I do not consent to any searches." The cop hands back the license and says, "Have a nice day." The driver asks, "Am I being detained, or am I free to leave?" And the cop says, "You're free to go." The driver drives away. No handcuffs, no charges, no nightmare. Same cop, same stop, completely different ending. That's the difference between the wrong way and the right way. The only difference is the words. And that's exactly what happened to the cop in this story. He pushed too far on a 71-year-old driver who knew his rights, and the whole thing ended with the cop fired and arrested. When you know your rights, you're not just protecting yourself, you're exposing the cops who abuse their power. Every refusal you make is evidence. Every calm question you ask is proof. And that's how bad cops get caught. In 3 days I'm dropping the video on what to say when a cop claims he smells weed. That's the most requested topic I've ever had, and it's the one that gets people arrested. Every single day, hit subscribe right now so you don't miss it, because that video could be the one that saves you. Here's your quick recap. 1. Never consent to a search. Say it out loud, say it twice, say it until it's automatic. 2. Ask if you're being detained or free to leave, and make the cop answer. 3. Never wait for a dog sniff after your stop is over. 4. Never let a cop pet you down without a real reason for sentences. That's the whole system. And now you know it. That's the power of what you just learned. You went from a driver who could be talked into anything to someone who knows exactly how to protect yourself. And that's a change no cop can take away from you. Hit subscribe so you catch next week's video on drug dog searches. Smash that like button if this just saved you from a future arrest. And drop a comment telling me which tactic you'll use first. I read every comment. Stay safe out there and remember your silence is your power. Your words are your shield. Use them.